Good afternoon. I'm H.D. Chambers. I'm the Superintendent of Schools for Alief ISD, and I'm here to share some information regarding a bond referendum that our school board called back on August the 3rd. And a little bit of context for this. I will talk more about what a bond referendum is in just a second, but I do want you as employees, and I want the general community to be aware of what we're doing, why we're doing it, the timing of it, and then hopefully everyone who lives in our school district, who pays their taxes, who calls Alief their home, would take advantage of the opportunity to vote and to be an active participant in the election on November the 2nd. To put things into context, the last time Alief had a bond referendum was in 2015. That was a $341 million bond, and I'm going to talk about it in 1 second. But that bond referendum in 2015 was designed to last 6 years. The money that went along with it, the resources, the buildings, the facilities we've built, renovated, the buses we've purchased, all the things we did were intentionally designed to last 6 years. This bond referendum, the bond steering committee and the board approved it lasting 7 years. So this is going to be a 7-year bond if it's successful. So think through 2028. At some point in 2027, 2028, the district will have to once again revisit this issue for the next foreseeable future for bonds. So as I talk about this, just think in terms of 7 years. This is not all going to take place in first year. It's going to be spread out over a 7-year time frame. So with that being said, I always start this conversation with just a general overview of our district. We are 36.6 square miles. We're very small in terms of geographic footprint relative to other districts. However, we're a large student population within that small geographic location. We have roughly 42,000 students. It fluctuates, especially the last couple of years with COVID. But when you take the limited amount of geographic space we have, and you look at our student enrollment, our student population at any given time, what we come to the conclusion is we are an extremely densely populated district. And some of you that work with students and student services every day know this better than I do. We have, and I'm guesstimating, but we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 65% of our families that live in an apartment complex. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,400 students per square mile in our district. So I bring this up to say that when you have a population, when you have a community and a student and a family population like we do, there are many opportunities for the students we serve to miss out on resources, support, equipment, facilities. And what I have attempted to do in my time here, and I think what the Bond Steering Committee is attempting to do and the school board is doing here, is to continue providing opportunities for our students, regardless of where they come from, regardless of what their home situation is like, to provide them with the best quality facilities, the best quality equipment, the best quality resources as we possibly can. No different than students who may be coming from more affluent backgrounds, more affluent communities are receiving. And this bond, in a roundabout way, is attempting to provide an equitable opportunity for our students and our staff. So keep that in the back of your mind as we talk through this. Just real quick snapshot. If you count portable buildings, that's a big if, but if you count portable buildings, we have in the neighborhood of 120 to 125 facilities across the district that our maintenance department and our custodians are responsible for every single day. That's a lot of square footage. It's a lot of air conditioning. It's a lot of plumbing. It's a lot of, you just think about a building, there's a lot that goes into those buildings. Referencing the 2015 bond again one time, one of the things I hope, and if you in this room are residents of this district and you pay your property taxes to us, I want to be clear about this, and I really want to be clear about this to those in the community that may be watching, is that one thing that the board and I are extremely proud of as a result of the 2015 bond is that we basically did what we said we were going to do. We told the voters, if you approve this bond referendum, and at the time it was $341 million, we're going to do the following things. And now 6 years later, I can honestly look them in the eye and say we did exactly what we said we were going to do. We did it on time. We did it under budget in totality. There were some items that came in over budget, but there were a lot of projects that came in well under budget. So in total, we came in under budget. And we did them in a way in which I think the community can be proud. We addressed the needs that we felt most critical at that time. And so just a couple of examples of what the 2015 bond called for and what we have successfully done. The Center for Advanced Careers, obviously, there was addressing a need for preparation of students who are not going to college, but who need a workforce meaningful credential, meaningful certification. This building has been, I think it's exceeded most of our expectations, and my expectations were high to begin with. But it is it's a state-of-the-art, one-of-a-kind building in the state of Texas. You won't see another one like it. The Center for Talent Development opened in 2020, at the intersection of Westheimer and 6th. And then as we sit here today, we have 2 brand new full-day pre-K centers under construction that are both designed to be opened in the fall of 22. So this time next year, we should have a bunch of little 4-year-olds under one roof. Somehow, some adults herding them. I don't know how they're going to do it, but as a part of our objective, our priorities, which is to prepare students for, college career readiness, the Career Center was an investment that our community made into that objective. As a part of the objective to make sure every child has the opportunity to be reading on grade level by 3rd grade, as a part of that objective, this is going to go a long ways towards helping us achieve that, along with other initiatives, but just an example. So I use these as examples of what we are referring to, or what I'm referring to when I say we delivered them on time, on budget, or under budget. So that's our just a few examples. What's a bond election? I just want to be really clear about this. Some people don't realize what you can and can't do in a school system. So I want you to imagine for 1 second just your own personal finances, your family's, your own personal finances. You get a paycheck a couple of times a month. You use that money to pay for your bills. I mean, you live your life paying that. You pay your mortgage or your rent or your lease. You pay your car notes. You pay for gas. You pay your utilities. Things that you continually pay for every month, month after month after month. There are things you can't go out and borrow money to do, although in some cases people have to do that. But in the school business, we have the same thing. We have an account where we pay our bills, we pay salaries, we buy chairs, we buy pencil, we buy paper. But we also have another account, much like we do in our own personal life, that if I need a new roof, if I need to buy a car, if I want to buy a home, I typically have to go borrow the money. And that's kind of what school districts have to do. We have to do the same thing. The only difference is for us to borrow money to pay for those big ticket items, those big facilities, those big renovations, we have to ask the voters for approval. Because it's the voters who are going to be paying for it. They're the ones going to be paying for it. So that's what a bond election is. That we're no different than you taking out a mortgage on your home. We borrow the money, the investors give us the money, we pay the money back with interest, the investor makes money on it. It's complicated, but it's a pretty simple process in terms of understanding how it works. So as I mentioned, there was a bond steering committee. They began meeting back in January. They met for 6 months, a little over 6 months, and they ultimately made the recommendation to the board back in August. So I want to pause for 1 second because what I'm getting ready to go into is the actual the content of the referendum. There are 4 propositions, and I want to be real clear. The referendum is the total referendum. That means a bond referendum is everything I'm getting ready to talk about. There's one referendum, okay? It's the 2021 bond referendum. Within that referendum are going to be 4 separate propositions that make up the referendum. A Prop A, Prop B, Prop C, Prop D. Won't bore you with the details, but the reason we have 4 propositions is because state law requires us to. State law requires us to have certain propositions for certain things that a district may put on a ballot. So as a voter, and I'm going to show you at the very end what the ballot's going to look like, but as a voter, when a voter goes into the voting booth, they will have an opportunity, that voter will have an opportunity to vote for 4 different propositions that represent 4 totally different sets of items, and that's what I'm going to show you in just a second. So that's why we have 4 props: Prop A, Prop B, Prop C, Prop D. So Proposition A is the largest one. I'll tell you right now, it's pretty significant. And we really broke it down into 6 components. There's school and safety and security enhancements in Prop A. The police department's going to get some resources. Almost every one of our schools will be touched to some extent. We have spent a lot of money and time over the last 7 or 8 years updating, particularly our elementary schools, with safety and security features. We still have some work to do, but a lot of this proposition includes safety and security investments across the district. 2 elementaries were determined that it was time to rebuild them. The age of Ewens and the age of Chambers and the structural integrity of both of those buildings warranted our architects, our consultants, our structural engineers, the professionals who look at our buildings. They look at them much differently than we look at them. We walk into them and we say, well, that paint's nice, or that floor is well kept, or those ceiling tiles are clean, which that's what you will find when you walk in our schools. What you will not find is some of the structural issues that we are concerned about over the next 5 to 10 years, nor will you find a true 21st learning instructional environment that our students really need. You'll find a clean building, but these are things that this district, and some of this will be done long after I'm gone, long after we're gone in some cases. But over the next 15, 20, 25 years, 30 years, Alief ISD will have to systematically, through a bond process, begin identifying what schools need to be rebuilt, what facilities need to be rebuilt. Some of you work in buildings right now, you're probably wondering, why is Martin not being rebuilt? Or why is, well, I'm not going to start naming schools, but there's a laundry list of schools that a reasonable person would say, well, why aren't they included in this? And the short answer to that is, they do. They're just not as significant, and that we've got a little time with those schools. These 2 schools tend to rise to a level where they need to be addressed in the next 5 to 7 years. And so when I say addressed, I mean rebuilt. So as you talk or as you hear, the confusion could be that Alief's adding 2 brand new elementaries. That's not true. We're not building 2 new elementaries. We're not growing with enrollment. We're rebuilding 2 existing elementaries to replace the existing building, the existing campus. And these are the 2, okay? They'll be located in the same location. The first question people ask, and I've already spoke to both the Chambers and the Ewens faculty, they just start going, well, how are we going to do it? Are we going to have to change schools while y'all build it? Are we going to have to do it? The answer to all those questions are yes, 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 yes. The logistics will be worked out in due time. Right now, I'm just trying to make sure I educate the community on the referendum so that if it is successful, then we will start dealing with the logistics. But we have thought about the logistics. We have thought about all of that. And at the appropriate time, we will have a plan that we'll put in place. So the Prop A includes a new agricultural science center. Some of you may not know this, but we have hundreds and hundreds of students involved in our agricultural science program. We have kids all over the state of Texas showing animals. They're raising cattle, they're raising pigs, goats, chickens, rabbits. All of the animals that you can show in a livestock show and rodeo, our kiddos are participating in that. And right now, and for the last, I don't know how long, some of you know it better than I do, they have been working out of a facility that just doesn't meet their needs. It doesn't meet the needs of hardly any ag program. So I'm excited, as a superintendent, I'm excited about this because there's a segment of our student population that's very engaged in this, and this will provide them an equitable opportunity, an equitable set of resources, a facility that mirrors what a lot of other programs have across the state. I know you can't see this on the left-hand side. The location that we've identified, if this is successful, if this prop is successful, is right across the street from Youngblood Intermediate. So think of where the community garden is. That piece of property, Alief ISD owns it. It's kind of central in the community. It makes sense because of the Alief garden being there. And there's plenty of room for students who are raising livestock to be able to have them fenced in, to be able to be, to keep them there and to raise them. Right now, students who are raising livestock are having to find, in some cases, other people's property who will let them raise them and keep their animals on their property. So that's the Ag Science Center. We're going to be purchasing, if this is successful, there'll be roughly 100, 115 buses, depending on the price of those buses over the next 7 years. We're continuing to increase the percent of our buses that have seat belts and air conditioning. We're almost there with air conditioning. We're not almost there with seat belts. We got a little ways to go. This will go a long ways towards that. The committee felt strongly about investing in our fine arts department. As I've mentioned, some of our students don't have the capability, our families don't have the capability of purchasing the types of equipment, musical equipment for band or for orchestra. I don't know, how many of you bought a French horn lately? Probably not. How many of you bought a trombone lately? A flute, a violin, a cello? I mean, all of these things they're extremely expensive. And as a district, in our case, if we want our students to have the same opportunities that others children have, we as a district have to invest in that. And so that's what the committee recommended to the board. The board agreed. So music, dance, art, for both facilities and equipment are included in Proposition A. Entry canopies for some of the elementaries that are getting a little older. This is just a facelift, an upgrade, until we get a chance to possibly rebuild that school. The next set of things are things you and I, for those of us that own homes, live in a home, these are things that we deal with all the time. We're going to have to replace roofs across the district. We're going to have to replace chillers and boilers for heaters and air conditioning and ventilation systems. We're going to have to replace electrical upgrades. In this particular case, fire alarms is a key component of our electrical upgrades that are in this prop. Plumbing throughout the district, things you don't see. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of things you can see. There's a lot of things you can't see that require attention and included in this prop are these things. So when you summarize all of Prop A under those little 6 buckets, if you will, that I did, it is estimated, and these are professional estimates over the next 7 years, to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $482 million. All right? So Prop A, big number, a lot of money, but it goes towards all those things I just referenced. And you can see the estimated cost breakdown of safety, buses, fine arts, the 2 new elementary schools, the Science Center, Ag Science Center, and then the modernization of all those things I just said, roofs, carpet, etc. So anyway, that's Proposition A, all right? Prop B is much smaller, and it is much more strictly defined. Prop B is nothing but athletic facilities. So think about Proposition A hitting every building in the district somehow. Prop B is a much smaller proposition, and it is only athletic facilities. This is state law. So tennis courts will be replaced across the district, rebuilt and remodeled, replaced. Outdoor scoreboards, they're old, they're obsolete, and in some cases we can't find parts for them. Those will be replaced. Same way with gymnasium scoreboards. Dugouts, we have an equity issue because we built a brand new softball complex for ELSIC out of the 2015 bond. Now Hastings will get the same thing out of this if this prop is passed and is successful. We will be replacing natural grass with artificial turf at the auxiliary field as well as Taylor's Field, so that quite frankly, this is being done for 2 reasons. One, the amount of use by outside groups, in addition to our kids, wears on the natural grass, and the cost for the district to maintain the natural grass throughout all of this it's extraordinarily high. And so just trying to figure out the most cost-effective and the safest way to provide surfaces for not only our student athletes, but the neighborhood community who uses these as well. We'll be doing the same thing with softball and baseball fields across the district. I mentioned the Hastings dugout, the softball field, that's included. So if you include or summarize all the things with Prop B, it's only $9 million. It's only relative to the $482 million Prop A, but that is specifically athletic facilities. Proposition C is strictly Crump Stadium. I don't know if you guys know this. I didn't realize this until we started going through this process. The press box at Crump right now was built in 1974. I think I was 10 years old in 1974. There's some problems that are true. We have some handicap accessibility issues. We have some ADA issues that we're not compliant with. The functionality of the press box and the fact that it's, like I said, 38, 48 years old. It's old. So that is part of Prop C. We'll be replacing the scoreboard with Prop C if it's successful. There'll be a a more state-of-the-art kind of a video board, if you will. Yes, this is a nice experience for the spectators at events, but we also have students who are in multimedia programs that will be able to broadcast soccer, football games live. They will produce it. They will use cameras. I mean, it will be a student-led activity for a lot of our kids who are going into multimedia beyond high school, and we have a lot of them. We will be replacing the turf and the track. They are nearing the end of their life. They're almost 10 years old, both the turf and the track. So when you add up the things at Crump, that's a total of $19.4 million, okay? So Prop A, big prop, district-wide. Prop B is small, just athletic facilities. Prop C is Crump. And then last but not least is Prop D, which is technology. In technology, this proposition will be nothing but devices, student devices, teacher devices, support staff devices, the strategic replacement cycle, things of that nature. So think devices on this. The infrastructure to support all these devices are going to be in Proposition A. I didn't spell that out, but one of the things in Prop A is the infrastructure for whatever will be needed in the next 6 or 7 years for technology. So just a brief recap, you can see the 4 props, A, B, C, D. You can see the amount of money that we've calculated that we'll take over the next 7 years. When you add it all up, it's $541 million. The pie chart kind of states the obvious. Most of this is Prop A. The cost, the impact that, and this is a hard one to do. This is the question everybody always, including the bond steering committee, they always want to know how much is it going to cost. How much money do we have? In this case, when you take the $571 million and you forecast the way we sell bonds, which is yearly, we sell them each year, we don't sell it all at one time. So the impact to the tax rate, the debt service tax rate, we can strategically manipulate that and manage that by selling a certain amount of bonds one year, another amount of bonds the next year, because while we're selling bonds, and for sake of argument, let's say all 4 of these props pass. While we're selling the bonds for these props over the next 7 or so years, we will be retiring debt that we've incurred from 2013, from 2003, and from 1998. Believe it or not, we still have a 30-year bond maturity note on a bond that was sold in 1998. So a message to taxpayers is, no, we're not going to lump $570 million of debt on top of current debt. It will be structurally played out over the next, depending on how long the bond is, it could be up to 20 to 25 years. So when you do that and you factor all this into play, we took the average value of a home, a $100,000 home. So if you own property, you know the county appraisal district, whether you live in Harris County or Fort Bend or Brazoria, the county appraisal district will evaluate your home and appraise your home every year, put a value on it, and then whoever's taxing you, that tax rate will be multiplied against your value, and that's your total tax. That's how they come up with the total tax. In A-Leaf, we took a $100,000 piece of property, and for that person over a 7-year period, they may see an increase of $3.75 a month on top of what they've been paying. May be slightly lower because this is a very, very conservative number. But that's kind of what, in terms of dollars and cents, that's kind of what the taxpayer may expect over the next 7, 10, 12 years, based on the economy and based on the selling of the bonds. I will tell you this, that A-Leaf ISD has the 2nd lowest tax rate in the greater Houston area. And our tax rate right now, both our maintenance and operation and our debt service, our tax rate right now is the lowest it's been in 16 years. And I think that's an important point for me to share with voters, because a lot of people, first thing they want to know is, how much is this going to cost? And then they want to know, what have you done with my money and how have you managed my money, which are 2 fair questions. We have managed the money well, I will be the first to say, but we've also been able to manage the tax rate very well. We have refinanced existing debt, much like you may refinance the mortgage on your home. Some of you may have done that in the past. We do the same thing with debt. If the rates are low enough and it makes sense, we will refinance. So all of these factors go into it, but when you spit out what's it going to cost me every month, this is what we're anticipating for someone who lives in a home valued at $100,000. If you live in a $200,000 valued home, double it. Do the math, okay? If you're 65 or older, doesn't matter what we do. Doesn't matter what your values do, doesn't matter what the tax rate does. Your taxes are frozen at the point in which you're 65 years old and you own the property. The only time this is not true, is if you, as a homeowner at 65 or older, make significant improvements to your property. If you add another 1,500 square feet to your home, if you add a barn in the backyard, I mean, all these things, that's what ends up impacting the 65 and older. So I'll wrap it up by saying you can register to vote if you're not. If you've been in this district since I've been around, I have beat you guys over the head about getting registered to vote. I've bribed you, I've challenged you. I've done everything I can do to get you to be an educated, informed voter. Early voting starts on the 18th, so we're less than a month away. I would encourage you to be familiar with this so you know where to vote, where and what time. The 3 locations right now for early voting, this building, which makes it easy for folks around here, Mission Bend Islamic Center and the HCC Ailey Center. We're probably going to be, we're going to be adding a couple of sites to this. We're waiting on Harris County right now to approve those, but as soon as we do, we'll make people aware. But you'll have plenty of opportunities to early vote. Most of them are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We're even, we don't have it up here, but I was talking to the county judge this afternoon. We're probably going to end up having a 24-hour polling site. So we may make the news. This is personally, I want our voters to have every opportunity to vote, period. End of sentence, period. So if they can vote at 2 a.m. in the morning, more power to them. If they want to vote at 7 a.m. in the morning, more power to them. But we are going to broadcast our early voting dates and times, and we will continually update this because it is fluid right now. But as we see it right now, that's our sites. Election day is November 2nd. Again, those are the 3 early voting sites, but we're waiting on the county to let us know all the election day sites. There will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 25 election day sites throughout the district. Many of our schools will be election day polling sites. Okay, I know you can read that. Okay, if you look really close, this is what the ballot's going to look like, okay? If you look on the left-hand side, see that little dark black area? Right below that is what the ballot's going to look like for an A-Leaf voter. Well, you're going to see constitutional propositions as well, but as far as A-Leaf ISD, and the very first 4 things you're going to see are board election candidates. Because while we're doing this, we have 4 board members or 4 board positions that are up. 2 incumbents are running, and then 2 positions are open. So you have Dr. Bro and Ms. Jennifer Key, who are incumbents who are running. Ms. Butler and Mr. Wynn have chosen not to run again, so those 2 seats are open. There are candidates in those seats. But those four things will be the A-Leaf voter. They will get a chance to vote on their trustee, who they select for each position. And then right after that will be the 4 propositions I referred to. So that's what the 2 columns, the one in the middle and the one to the far right, I know you can't read that, but the first one at the very top in the middle is Proposition A, and it just gives some generic descriptions of what is included in Prop A. It doesn't say replacing Ewens and Chambers. It just says building replacement, building renovation, just these kind of overarching terms that it refers to all of it. And then the one below that's Prop B, Prop C, Prop D. So my message here is I don't want people to think they're going to go into the polling booth and see verbiage exactly like I've either shared or like we have put in a PowerPoint. We will start moving this so you can read it better. We just got this last day or 2. But we want to make sure that the voters aren't confused with, well, he said this and showed this, but this is what this says. Because that can be confusing. But nevertheless, we will do our best to educate people on that. All right. That is it. So I want to encourage everyone to be aware, be informed, and if you live in this district, exercise your right to vote. If you don't live in this district and you're an employee, please use this opportunity to share information, factual information with colleagues or anyone else that may be interested. Because it's everyone's responsibility to be aware. If you live in this district, you have a financial interest because of your property. If you work in this district, you have a professional interest because of this is your chosen place of employment, and you should be aware of that. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.